This episode is brought to you by The Wellness Summit, 2 days that will change your life forever. For tickets, go to thewellnesssummit.com. TheWellnessCouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. This is Up for a Chat with Cindy O'Meara, Karen Smith, and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Karen Smith.
I'm Kim Morrison.
And I'm Cindy O'Meara.
And welcome, because today we're talking all about the business of writing books. And who better to hang out with than three gorgeous chickie babes? And that actually does include me. But who better to hang out with than three of us who've written our own books, but, actually, better still, you two spunky monkeys who've written multiple books. So, over to you. Mm-hmm.
Oh, over to us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Let's start.
Where do you start? What's the first
where
thing
do you start?
Yeah, how do you organise your thoughts? I know how I do it. How do you girls organise? Well, Cindy, how do you organise your thoughts to actually bring the bigness of a book together? Because for most people, and I've just come off Speakers Fast Track, and lots of people want to write books, but the thought of it is like overwhelming. How did you do it?
Well, the first book I ever wrote, and that goes back to 1995, so nearly 20 years ago I wrote my first book.
Well, you'd have been about 4.
Thank you.
And you can pay me later for that, love.
I will pay you later for that one. 24.
We like it.
We do. So what happened was I was writing for the local paper, and I would write weekly columns, and it would be on a topic that I thought was important, and it was about, breakfast cereals, it was about milk, or it was about whatever, I wrote about it. And at the end of 2 years of writing it for the paper, I realised that I had a book in it. So what I did was I basically threw all of those, the weekly columns together. I just threw them together, and I gave them to Penguin, and I gave them to Random House, and I gave them to, I think, 15 author, places that would publish my book, and nobody was interested in it. And I thought, oh, well, maybe it's a dud, maybe it's, it's not anything. So I shelved it. I just shelved it. And that was back in 1992, I shelved that. And then in 95, I had somebody who's an editor that I knew, and she said, let me read what you've put together. So I let her read it, and she said, Cindy, this sounds very scientific, and you're not scientific when you speak. You're actually very
talkative.
Yeah, very easy to understand. Talkative. That's a good way of putting it. So very easy to understand. So she said, I think you should rewrite it in a very easy to understand, friendly, conversational way, and that's what I did.
That's the word I think you were looking for. That can be chatty.
Yeah, chatty. Yeah, and it was chatty. It was very chatty, and that was 1998. I finally got that finished, and decided I didn't want to be rejected by publishers again.
Huh?
No, I didn't want to be rejected, and somebody had told me about self-publishing, and I thought, okay, well, then I had to go into understanding self-publishing. So I had to find a formatter, had to find an editor, had to find somebody who would design the cover, had to get an ISBN, and, all of those things. So I got that all together and basically printed, I think I printed 2,000 copies, and I figured I needed to sell so many in order to pay back what it had cost me, and I think it was 6,000 at the time.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was what I did. Pardon?
What was that book?
That was Changing Habits, Changing Lives. Yeah, that was my first book. So then I sold around 20,000 around the southeast Queensland area.
Which is phenomenal, just saying.
Absolutely.
Back then, I think it was very phenomenal because I think a bestseller was around 3,000 at the time in the whole of Australia. You had to sell 3,000 books. So, of course, then publishing companies see somebody who's self-published, and they start calling you. And I was called by Penguin.
But I think, too, considering the nature of your content and the timing, we're a lot more aware nowadays. But back then, it probably would have been quite challenging. So for you to have that level of success, that's pretty much the shizzle. Yeah. I think I'd be keen to actually explore, how do... If we think about this podcast with somebody who's wanting to start, perhaps we can look at How do you organise your thoughts? And so for you, you had all your different articles. So you'd been writing for years and you compiled your articles and then gave it to editors, and it was the editors that finessed it?
Yes,
Or did
it was.
you finesse it
no,
first?
I had the help of people helping me write it simply. So they would read the complicated one and then they would write it in simple terms, and I would look at it and go, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to say.
Right.
So I learned a lot from, it was actually a ghostwriter that helped me do that.
Ghostwriter.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been looking into ghostwriters lately.
It was a ghostwriter that actually took my thoughts and put it into a really readable. So what you read in Changing Habits, Changing Lives was the ghostwriter. Yeah.
Yeah. But darling, so just back to how you, like, what I've been listening to, there's a great podcast called So You Want to Be a Writer, which you might be interested in, the Australian Writers
Oh, Guild. Yeah.
I've just gone blank with her name. I'll look it up for you. But they're brilliant, and they're both talking about how to write a book, how to get your thoughts down. It's a weekly 1-hour show, but they also bring into it things like what's going on in the writing world and what's being said out there and what's the best people to contact when it comes to writing. And their topics are really good. That's really
great.
helpful. Adele Koo, I think her name is, Adele.
And it's an Australian podcast.
Yeah, she runs the Australian Writers, I don't know if it's Guild, but it's down in Melbourne. So I got to meet all these ladies a couple of months ago, and they're just
Oh, when
brilliant.
you met Commando.
Oh, should we talk about that, shall we?
Oh, that's right. When you met Commando.
Not only met him, but
touched him and got a photo with him, yes. Okay.
Anyway.
I do remember that visit.
But that might be a really good podcast to listen to. Or to look up anything around writing, because I think those sorts of things are helpful. Cindy, I just want to ask you again, though, did any of the words or work come back from the ghostwriter that you weren't happy with, and in which case do you end up creating quite a good relationship with a ghostwriter? Like, does she really get inside your head, or do you think some people could get it wrong? Because I've had experiences where we've had an editor who wasn't a ghostwriter, she was an editor, and completely changed our work to the point where I was reading it going, that's not us. But she would say, but that's what I think you should say. And you start getting a bit lost sometimes.
Yeah.
So
no, I had a gentleman, a guy, ghostwriter, and he was absolutely brilliant. And I never felt that he changed my words. He just... he did it very simply. And I used to read his stuff and go, wow. And, I learnt a lot from him in that time. I learnt so much from him because I learned how to write during that time. But, that was back in the days before the internet, before even computers. I didn't even have a computer. I used to type on a typewriter. Yeah, I used to type on a typewriter, put it in the fax to the newspaper. And I think the computers were coming in by the time I was doing the book. So that became easier and easier. So it's about gathering a team. That's what it is.
It is.
Once, I never got my thoughts on paper. I just started to write like that. And there are bloggers out there.
Yeah,
That are blogging. And they could get their blogs together. And they do. Like, look at Sarah Ballantyne from Paleo Mum. She just started blogging because she was a mum that found things, and she wrote this book called Paleo something, I can't remember, but she was just a blogger, paleo blogger. And Denise Minger was the same. She wrote the book Death by Food Pyramid. She was just a blogger, and she put her blog posts together. So now there are people out there that are blogging as opposed to writing for papers. Writing for papers was like, you didn't get that job every day, but you can be a blogger.
Absolutely.
And a blogger, the beauty of blogging is there's no editing. It's your own work. And I think that's why blogging's become so popular, because people aren't being told what they can and can't say.
There's no restraint.
Yeah.
I remember when I put my book together, I had 189,000 words, and we gave it to the editor, and it came back with like 70,000 words.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, I was gutted. But it is interesting. I mean, I'm very happy with my book, but I have to be honest, like, the book took on the editor's flavour rather than mine. So it was her. I could hear her in the book rather than me when I read it. But I don't know that anybody else feels the same way. I thought it was just...
I think sometimes...
I got a bit attached to my word.
By the way, her name's Valerie Koo.
It is.
Runs... And is it
It's Valerie.
Alison.
It's Valerie Khoo, Khoo, and Alison Tate, and it's called "So You Want to Be a Writer" podcast.
It's brilliant. I love them, and they're both very articulate, and they're both, you know, you don't have to listen to all of them, but they're very interesting. But the thing I was going to say to you, though, around your book, though, Karen, when I read it, though, I hear you loud and clear.
Oh, you do?
I do
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think sometimes it's good, you get so in it
I know.
and so involved in it that I think it's good to have people. When Fleur and I wrote Like Chocolate for Women, the one we ended up self-publishing, we ended up giving it to 7 friends who were very good readers, and they were in our book club. And we gave it the manuscript to all of them to read, and they became our editors. After we'd spent $3,000 with this other editor we weren't happy with, we then put it out to our 7 girlfriends in the book club, and they came back with the most constructive,
isn't that
unbelievably helpful. They picked up spelling mistakes. They were asked. They put questions like an editor would. What do you mean here? Rather than rewriting it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really helpful to have people. But I think get people that are good readers and are articulate readers, because I think that's what helped me, because we were trying very hard to say some science but also make it quite chatty. So they got to know our personalities quite well. And I think, shall we maybe talk a little bit about the self-publishing versus publishing role? Because I think they're very, very different. And I think in the 90s, to be published, I thought was extraordinary. And you were almost, it was an honour. It was like you were one of a few. And nowadays, and yet when we came along and wrote our first book published in 2001, we were told by another writer who was self-published at the time that, look, you just got to understand that publishers are just glorified printers. And no disrespect to our publishers out there, but I could see what he was saying, because he felt very under the pump. He couldn't get the books. I mean, we couldn't get our book to buy from our publisher. The Whitcalls and the, I guess, what's the equivalent here of a bookstore? What's
Angus
the
and
book chain? Angus and
Robertson,
Robertson, Dymocks. They would buy it cheaper than we could, and yet we'd written it. And we found that really frustrating.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, because I think most people don't know that if you publish through a publisher, you have to buy your books back from them.
Yes.
So what's the distinction for you, Kim, around publishing or self-publishing? Because you've done both, haven't you?
Yeah.
So which one did you do first? Did you self-publish first?
We did 3 published first.
Yeah.
And then 2 self-published.
So what would you talk about getting published? How do you find a publisher? What's the deal? Do you make any money on those books? What about the publicity, like getting it out there?
Yeah. I think if you're new to this, if you're new to the whole game, having a publisher is like having someone hold your hand, and I think it's actually a really positive experience if you want to put it that way. You also don't have to put any money up. I mean, let's go back to, we wanted to write our book because we felt there wasn't a book out there for busy mums doing what we were doing. We both had breastfed babies and a toddler. And I'd been asked to write an article for a leading magazine in New Zealand. And I started writing it, and I rang Fleur and I said, oh my gosh, I know what it is we have to do. We've got to put this in a book. And she went, okay, as all good friends do. So we started by putting a proposal together, because we didn't think of self-publishing then. We had no idea around self. We just knew we had to get published. So we put a 2-page proposal together. Now, my husband had just been published by a big publishing house in New Zealand as he'd finished his cricket career, so I kind of had a little bit of an in. So we went along to this publisher thinking we would walk out signed up published authors. We didn't realise that they'd turn us down. I mean, why would they turn us down? So we sat there with their marketing team really trying to sell our story and what we wanted to do, and there was 1 woman and 4 men in the room. And 2 weeks later we got called in and told, look, great idea, but we don't think you'll sell more than 1,000 copies, and that's too niche for us. And we were devastated. Honestly, I didn't realise that you'd get turned down. But anyway, we linked arms.
Very positive.
I've never been told no before, as she backed her eyelashes.
I did. I was really shocked. But we linked arms, walked out of there, and said, well, if Harry Potter got turned down 9 times, that's the first of 9, let's go to the next one. So we kind of, and then, to be honest with you, it made us a bit stronger, a little bit more savvy, because then we tweaked the proposal, because we took on everything that they said, what they didn't think would work and how it wouldn't work. Because if you think about it, from a big sporting publishing house, pitching an aromatherapy book, of course we were with the wrong publisher. Like, it didn't occur to me that there was publishing houses for certain genres. So anyway, we tweaked.
So you hadn't actually written the book or anything on the book right now. All you had was a 2-page document that was like, okay, what do we think this will look like?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
And we didn't even have the title of the book. We didn't even know what it looked like. We just knew what we wanted to say in it.
Right.
So we tweaked it a little bit, and what we realised our winning factor was to get one over was the fact that we were speakers. And publishers love speakers because they know that they're going to go out and sell their book. Whereas a lot of people that are amazing writers write these books, hand it over, and think that they're going to become a bestseller. And you know what? Every now and again, you get that 1 in a million that's just going to take off and be seen as a 50 Shades of Grey, and it's going to go ballistic. However, this was not one of those books, obviously. And so, but what was beautiful is the next day, the one woman that was in that meeting rang us and said, "Look, I think you've actually." She was the one that wanted the book. But the 4 men didn't. And so she said, "Look, I think you should go to this publishing house." I thought that was really generous of her to give us an alternative. So we pitched it to these two. It was called Tandem House, and Tandem Press. And we went to them, and we so sold ourselves. They signed us on the spot. And not only did they sign us, but they wrote out a cheque.
Oh, God. How much for?
It was only $2,000, but we were beside ourselves.
So we're beautiful.
So we walked out of there with a cheque, and we looked at each other and went,
Now you got to do it.
we didn't know what to do next.
You
We
gotta
really
write
didn't
it.
know what to do next. So we spent, and I liken a book to a pregnancy. It took us 9 months from conception to birth. It was a 9-month journey. For all our books, it's been the same. So we found out we were pregnant, basically, got the contract, and then got major morning sickness because we didn't know what the hell to do, and we felt ill to the core as to what to do next. So we went away and we kind of wrote what we thought we should write. Now remember, we're not writers. We weren't bloggers. We hadn't been writing lots of articles, so we just wrote what we thought. In fact, what we did is we did a 2-day workshop. We transcribed it and thought, that's the book. But the written word is very different to the spoken word. And when we started looking at the transcript of our words, it was disgusting. It was horrible. It was awful because the sarcasm or the jokes on stage...
You just don't get that when you put that into writing.
You could not read that fully transcribed. It's quite a different art. So we were horrified, firstly, at how we sounded. Secondly, at actually what we would say on stage, me in particular, because what comes out I don't control often, or I didn't.
And that's another podcast.
But it was quite scary realising what you say. It was the arms, like we literally got it transcribed, literal. So that was a very powerful insight. Anyway, we spent the first it was 6 weeks. They wanted the first manuscript in 6 weeks. So we went back to them.
That's a lot.
Well, they wanted to see what we were like. They wanted the first part of the book.
Oh, wow.
So they didn't need,
chapters.
yeah, they wanted, the first half. They wanted at least half of it done by then.
Oh, wow.
So, but we went in there and we sat there like we were naughty girls in the principal's office because we knew it was really bad. It was really bad. So anyway, they called us back in a week later and sat there and they went, "Girls," and we knew we were in trouble. They said, "Look, this isn't what you said on the transcript." And we looked at the transcript and we thought that looked really good. We had gone totally away from the transcript, the proposal.
Oh, the proposal, right.
And had looked at our own transcript and gone, oh my gosh, where did we go? So we got completely lost and no direction. So then they turned around and realised that they were going to need to give us direction. So then we worked for the next 6 weeks with an editor who actually pulled everything out of us. And it was brilliant. And they were
Isn't
amazing.
it interesting how...
How lucky, though, to have
Yeah.
somebody who actually would invest that time.
Well, they knew they had signed us. They had to have this book out in November, and they knew that all of a sudden we weren't as great as we made out, I think. I think they realised they were in trouble more than us.
And they'd already given you $2,000 and they weren't going to lose their $2,000.
So I think, we sold ourselves. I mean, we totally went in there without fear. We were packing ourselves, but we also backed ourselves. And I'm not saying that I knew we would deliver. We just needed advice and guidance on how to get that out of us. So anyway, the middle 12 weeks, so then the middle 12 weeks was all around design and editing. So, and we did some midnight hour, boys. Did we work hard? And there were some nights with the editor working till 2, 3 in the morning. We had babies, we were breastfeeding, we were exhausted. But it was also during the middle phase, the second trimester of our book, that we also did the photography, which to us was just exquisite. So that's when we got... Now, this was interesting. The photographer had a different mindset as to how the book would look to us again. So she decided that it would be 18-year-old Marie Claire models jumping out of water, beautiful skin and all that. And we're sitting there, 2 30-year-old women with babies, exhausted, shattered, bags under the eyes going, are you for real? Like, this book was written for women like us, not 18-year-old models. So we turned around, we really fought tooth and nail around the women we wanted. And they said, well, what models have you got in mind? And we went, our friends. And they kind of laughed at first, but then when you looked at our girlfriends made up, we had a photographer, we had makeup artist, we had everything. We hired a penthouse in Takapuna. We had the beautiful... It took us 3 full days of photographing in different scenes. We went out West Auckland, we went up a mountain, we went in the water, and we did an in-house shoot in a penthouse. So you can see where the costs add up.
So who paid for that?
They did.
They did?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So they really, really helped you. They believed in you, and they helped you along.
Yeah. Which, looking back, that is a $10,000 job in itself.
Oh, yeah.
Minimum, just the photography. So I think what they really relied on was the fact that we were speakers, obviously. Yeah. And we'd built a rapport with them, and I think they genuinely really started to like us and got the hang of us. So then we went off, and the photographing, to be honest with you, was the most exciting part of seeing the book come to life. And it was in that point, though, that we realised how much we'd spent with them, that the photos would be black and white, that we would not have a colour book, so that your book can change course as well while you're writing, when you realise what your costs are and how you're going. And the book also evolves as you're writing. I don't think the minute you say you're going to write a book and how it ends up often is the same. I really doubt that most people that write books would say that my proposal from the beginning is exactly how it ends up. I think your book evolves as you go through. Anyway, and then the last 12 weeks, the third trimester, was all about starting to get the marketing whilst it went to print. So at that point, it was a 12-week lead-in to get our books printed, because they were printed offshore. And then you have a 6-week printing thing, and then a 6-week shipping, and then you launch, and you have to account to get it on that date of launching. So launch date for us, our publishers had spent so much money that they decided that we'd have a few drinks on the Friday night in the office to celebrate our book. And I looked at Fleur and went, but yes, we haven't worked this hard just to have a few drinks on a Friday night. I wanted a book launch. And so poor Fleur. When I think of Fleur and all the things I made her do. So our publishers turned around and said, no, book launches, you'd only have a book launch if you were a Jamie Oliver or someone like that. And I went, well, we can be a Jamie Oliver. So I decided to have a book launch, and we sold tickets to our own book launch, and our publishers were horrified. They actually were horrified that
but
we
you
would
sold
sell
tickets to the book. Yeah, because people didn't do that back then.
You invite people to your book launch, but it was the only way we could do it, because we had no money. So we sold $20 tickets to our book launch. I kept driving past this building in Takapuna in Auckland, and it was the big Clear Communications building with this big glass atrium, and Clear Communications happened to be the sponsors of New Zealand Cricket. So I went in there and spoke to the head of marketing there and told him what we wanted to do, and he said, why not? Didn't charge us anything to do it, because we said we didn't have any money, and we wanted to put $5 of each ticket back into a charity, which we had chosen, the Women's Health Action, which was all around domestic violence and supporting solo mums and things like that. Seeing as how this book was all about women looking after themselves, we wanted to give it to people that perhaps didn't have that opportunity. And $15 was allocated to a glass of wine and a few nibbles. So, and then our publisher said, and how do you propose to get people there, Kim? And I went, oh, that's easy. And Danny had just finished doing Celebrity Treasure Island, a nationwide television show where he was, they get put on, they get voted off and all that sort of thing. So I said to him, do you think if I sent a fax, because it wasn't emails in those days, if I sent a fax to all those celebrities, they'd come? And he said, why not? So I sent a fax out to all of the people that were on Celebrity Treasure Hunt, all the top celebrities of New Zealand at the time, and most of them came back and said they'd be there. So then I did a press release, had no idea how to write press releases, but I did a press release saying, guess who's turning up to this book launch? That was my headline. I mean, what sort of a headline is that? But guess who's coming to the book?
Guess who's coming to dinner? Guess who's coming to the book launch?
Of the year, the book launch of the year. And I wrote Like Chocolate, and we'd got our name by that stage, which was Like Chocolate for Women. And I listed all the celebrities, and I put all the celebrities down, even though some of them had said no, because I could always say, oh, they couldn't come. So I just bluffed my way through that. So we had Sky TV, the New Zealand Herald, the Breakfast television show, and we had the Woman's Weekly and Next magazine all turn up to come to this event. And we had probably 7 celebrities out of the 15 that we'd emailed turn up. But then I turned around and I thought, who could MC it? And a lady on national television over there, Kerry Woodham, is an amazing speaker. She's like a bit like our ABC woman in the morning, Annie Gaffney.
Oh, yeah, Annie Gaffney.
So she's like her. So I rang her. No, I faxed her, that's right, because she got a fax through on morning radio. And I said to her, Kerry, would you mind being the MC for our book launch? This is who's coming. This is what it's about. Would you do that? And apparently she stood up at our book launch and introduced it, and she said, I don't know about you, but for those of you that know Kim Morrison, I mean, saying no to her would be like kicking a kitten. So she said she goes, and I could tell she was blonde with her fax. I knew she was a blonde, so I don't know what she said, but anyway. So she emceed it, which she then gave kudos to it, and then the next day.
So how many people did you have at the launch?
250 people.
Your publisher must have thought, we have got a winner here.
Yeah.
Because that's just amazing. 250 people at a book launch, and that have all paid $20 to go.
I know. And not only that, we sold more books per person that night than they'd done with any other publisher or author ever, because it was Christmas. And Kerry stood up there and said, now listen here, you won't be here to buy one book, you will be here to buy 3 books, one for your mother and one for your sister. That's what you're here to do. And so she actually planted it in their heads that they all needed to buy Christmas presents, which was just an amazing marketing tool in itself. So we ended up then selling more books than a Jamie Oliver would on a book launch night. So the next day we got called into the national radio show in the morning, and I told the host of the show this, but she misheard me, or I don't know what she said, but when we got introduced, she said, now these 2 have sold more books than Jamie Oliver. So she kind of got it a little bit twisted, but we went with it.
We went with it.
Go with that.
We went with it. And so I just tapped Fleur under the table like, let's just go with this. And we did, and we acted like we were a bigger author than Jamie Oliver. So we had 3 reprints within the first 3 months of our book, which is big.
That's
just awesome,
amazing.
isn't it?
That is amazing. So they sold the book rather than you selling the book. So let's talk about when you go with the publisher, the cost of the books, because then you buy them and then you have to resell them. And if you don't get a lot, do you?
No. So out of every book that's sold, Fleur and I earned $3 of a $30 book.
Oh, I was going to say, how much did the book sell for?
$30. So Fleur and I earned
10%.
$3. We got a 10% royalty, which is pretty standard. Yeah. Which meant Fleur and I got $1.50 each. Now, what was the other interesting thing is Whitcoulls, which is like our Angus and Robertson, a big chain nationwide, would not take the book on, and that's what publishers rely on. So when we found out that news, they wouldn't take it on because they didn't think they thought it was too niche and they didn't think it would sell. So I thought, right, I'll make them want this book. So I asked every one of our friends and everyone at the book launch if they would go into Whitcoulls and ask for the book. Because when you go into a bookshop and you ask for the book, they then order it in.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, Whitcoulls all around Auckland had ordered in, and they usually order in 3 copies, 2 to 3 copies. They all of a sudden, Whitcoulls all around Auckland ordered 3 copies at every bookstore. And then they would. My mother was the funniest. She rang Whitcoulls in Christchurch, Dunedin. She rang all of them and pretended she was a local. And then they'd ring her and say, "Oh, look, we've got your book in." And she'd say, "Oh, it's all right. I went to Dymocks." That's what she'd say to them. That you took too long. I went to Dymocks. So now they're stuck with 3 books. So what would happen then is that now Whitcoulls had our book in all their shops, and then when we launched our second book, they were the first ones to sign us on because they could see that. In fact, the second book launch we did was at Whitcoulls in Queen Street. We had a big shop front window. We decided to get them on board even more and did the book launch there. Again, sold tickets to our own book launch, which they couldn't believe. But they could see the benefit in it. We had nearly 200 people at that book launch. And again, I even went to Trelise Cooper, who's one of our biggest fashion designers of New Zealand, and asked her to dress us, which she did. So then I had her on board, and she came and she spoke. It was amazing at what I learnt was you just sell yourself and you
be a little bit cheeky, I would say. Did you get that?
Yeah, I got that loud and clear, actually.
Every step of the way, you were cheeky.
Very.
And you stepped out of what the normal person would have done, which is standing back, waiting. And you can't when you do a book. There's just no way. Just so... it was really interesting doing self-publishing first because I understood the value of a book in terms of what it cost. And so when I then went with the publisher, I said to them, well, I'm not buying it back at any price but this. And so you can actually negotiate with your publisher as to what you buy it back at.
Well, our publishers would only let us have it at the same price as the wholesalers if we bought the same amount of them. So you can kind of... And so what would happen, how a publisher determines what the book will be sold at or how they will retail it. And normally a book is discounted 40% to sell it to wholesale. Yeah. So, and that's usually... And by the time you take into account the costs of editing, formatting, designing, and all those things distribution, all of that. I mean, it's not cheap.
No.
However, the actual real cost of a book to get it printed is phenomenally cheap.
Yeah.
But it's all those pre-press and pre-design and all of that sort of thing that costs you.
You have to cover your costs, and they have more costs than an author that's self-published. But what's interesting, in the days when we did it, there was the published book. That was it. You only had a published book. And the reason why we are actually talking about this is because I saw a Facebook post from you, Karen, saying that you had got a big check from Amazon because of your Kindle version.
Yeah.
And I just went, so now, when we were doing the book, it was your solid book and you sent it out and you sold it in bookstores and you sold it throrough your talks. And that was it. Now... it's just changed so much. So tell us about getting it electronically, Karen.
Well, that was in and of itself quite an adventure because to get the file formatted, so I self-published my book. And
how long ago was this, darling?
I wanted to write my book for about 5 years, but I couldn't get it out because I couldn't really organise my thoughts well enough. So I have a bit of a process for organising my thoughts, but I finally managed to start writing in the January of 2012 because by the October of 2012 I was going to be on 60 Minutes.
Oh, that's right. I do remember that. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to be on 60 Minutes here and overseas because it was the anniversary of the 2002 Bali bombing. And I really wanted to have my book ready for that. So I had spoken with a woman who was helping me to write my book. And she'd sort of given me some ideas in terms of the timeframes. And so I'd spoken with her about it. She said, look, it takes this long to get it printed, or this long to get it edited, this long to get it printed. So these are things that you've got to be working on now, which was the design cover, getting the ISBN, which was actually really easy. It was just an email.
Just explain what the ISBN is.
It's a unique number for every book. And it's also a unique number that tracks how the book is being sold or how the book is going from a selling point of view. So if you have a paper copy, like a hard copy of a book, it has an ISBN number. If you have an e-book version of the book, it has another ISBN number. So that...
and if you have an audio version?
Yeah, that's right.
Because there's audio versions as well.
There is. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So it stands for International Standard Book Number, ISBN, International Book Stand. International Standard Book Number.
Oh, okay.
I love Professor Google. He's my favourite friend. I just love him. Yeah, so she told me how to get all of that organised. And then I started writing and got it done. Anyway, there was a problem with it. I can't quite remember what it was, but it was the ebook version was supposed to have been ready at the same time that the paper copy was. But I had a girlfriend helping me out with that, and it just didn't... I don't actually know the detail of it, but it didn't coordinate well. So I did a book launch, and I think we had about 200 and something at the book
there were
launch.
heaps there.
Yeah.
That was a pretty spectacular book launch.
It was awesome, wasn't it?
It was.
Awesome.
It was.
And Kimmy was our MC.
I love doing
Wearing that
I
white
know.
tight
condom dress.
Condom dress.
We called it.
and very high heels.
Very high heels.
heel.
And so did you,
It's not.
by the way.
I thought I loved my dress. I had this leopard skin number with sparkles on it and jewels. And I had my hair done and my makeup done. And I looked fabulous, darling.
She really did.
You did.
I even got a spray tan. Can you believe it?
You looked hot, but then she couldn't sit down in her dress.
Yes, I was hysterical. I couldn't, because I was a little bit fluffy and my dress was a little tight. So I just had to lean.
On the stool.
I had to lean elegantly. Oh, I hope my feet didn't slip out from underneath me. God, I could see it all turning pear-shaped.
That was a beautiful.
Would have been memorable.
Oh, totes.
It was memorable, but it would have been really memorable.
Unforgettable then. So finally I got my book actually in e-version only about 6 months ago. So now, what are we now? From the time that it was released, we're about 2 years on. Because getting the file converted, I had to go back to the publishers to get the original file. Not the publishers, the printers, because I self-published. So I had to go back to the printers to get their original file copy, because I couldn't get the file copy from the editors or from anybody who'd helped me along the way. So I had to go back to the printers and I had to go and buy that. And that cost, it wasn't expensive. That cost me, I think, $188 for the printers to give me back my original file copy, so that then I could take that and get that converted.
Yeah.
To an online version.
Yeah.
But once it was done, and I put it up on Amazon. And when you put it up on Amazon, you create an account as an author, and you give them your bank account, and you also strike up a deal with them. So they give you a couple of different options to strike up the deal, and I took an option where I had 90 days, where I'd made a promise that I wouldn't give that book to anybody else, and I would also not put it on my own website for the first 90 days. Purely because with Amazon in the first 90 days, I don't know if you know, but when you buy a book, well, you do know, of course you know, for those of you guys who buy books off Amazon, probably we're all the same. You know, when you buy a book, when you scroll down at the bottom, it says, when readers looked at this one, they also looked at these.
Yeah.
So for the first 90 days, they really push your book through those channels. And my ebook went through the roof. In the first 90 days, it went through the roof. I don't even remember because I wasn't tracking it. I had somebody else helping me then. And I thought, oh, great, this is awesome. But the amount of money that they give you in that first 90 days is very little. Very little. You've got to pay a price for it. You know, like, you don't... The thing that I've learned as an author is... because as I said, as I'm self-published, but when it comes to being an author, everybody's taking a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Everybody's taking their piece of the pie. So what's left for the author is actually really very, very minimal. But it was just a price I paid because I thought, well, I've still got the hard copy of the book. I'm still selling that, and I'll always sell that. And then the ebook version, that can just be a bonus. You know, that can just be cream on the top, and it'll get what it gets. I haven't had it for 2 years, so I'm not going to miss it if I don't sell anything. And then the other day, and I just forgot about it. And then the other day, I get a check in the mail from Amazon. I'm like, okie dokie. It's a bit of all right.
But you know what I've learned about the Amazon checks is they come to Australia in American dollars.
Oh, doesn't that just suck? And then it takes 30 days to clear.
Almost 7 weeks because we've been doing it. We ended up creating an account elsewhere because of that very reason. Because I would lose you lose $30-$40 of your check.
Yeah, yeah.
That, you know, and that's like $30-$40, especially when you first start and you're only getting $150.
That's like, okay.
There you go. Well, what's the point of that?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So
and the bank fees and
the bank fees, and then it takes the check has to be sent back to the US.
Yes.
Yeah, and then they clear it, and then it comes back to Australia.
International banking.
Yeah, I know. It's just appalling.
It is appalling,
That's
and the
delay
only way
tactics.
you can do it electronically and not having it done by check is to have a US bank account.
So you've got a US bank account?
It's that secret squirrel, Karen, and you just told everybody. You have to remember, I'm an American citizen.
Of course you are. Yeah,
So
yeah, of course. And you guys do
last time I was
business
over there,
anyway.
last time I was over there, I opened up an account for that very reason. So I wasn't losing $30, and so now we can talk. We can talk, darling.
We need to talk.
We do. But you know the other thing about the whole Kindle thing is that it doesn't cost you very much at all. Once you've done everything,
Yeah.
there's no costs, and so you buy a book for $10 off Kindle.
Yeah.
You think you've got a deal.
Yeah.
You think you've got the best deal out. So more and more
Absolutely.
people are doing it.
Yeah.
And then do you have the deal now where you get 70% and they get 30%?
Yes, yes.
So then you start to make your money.
Yeah.
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 It's really exciting. So when I saw you get it, I went, oh my gosh. Do you know, I went to a conference just recently, and this girl said, she said, oh, Cindy, I want to talk to you about, your books. I'm a blogger and I want to write a book. And I realised how much I actually knew about self-publishing, Kindle versions, going through a publisher, having literary agents, because did you have a literary agent, Karen?
No, I'm actually looking at that right now because I want to I want to expand the business. Well, the business is expanding into the US and also into the UK. So I want to start looking at a literary agent probably in June. I'm going to look at that.
So did you have a
tell us.
literary agent?
No.
No. So what happened to me was I didn't even know what a literary agent was. So I'll explain what they are. They're the advocates for the authors for their contracts to the publisher.
Okay.
And they're also the spruikers to the publishers for the author. So they may think you're really good and they'll go to who they think might take you on. So they take their piece of the pie too, literary agents.
It's like having a manager, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's a manager. So my cousin worked in the publishing, but in education publishing. And she said, Cindy, you need a literary agent so that you don't get hauled over the coals with your contract when you go with a publisher. Because I trusted the publisher. I would have signed the dotted line not reading my contract.
Oh.
Because I was so naive back then.
Yes.
I was very naive and I thought that they were there for me. They'd seen how well I'd done and they were there for me. So she said, you need a literary agent to check your contract. You need a literary agent to be your advocate with that publisher because they'll take you for as much as they can because they know how well you can sell a book. They've watched you, they've seen you sell all by yourself, and now they want a piece of your pie.
Yeah.
And I never saw it that way. So she recommended a literary agent. He took me on. And thank goodness. Because when I went with the publisher, and people need to be aware of this, when they're writing out the contract, they were actually back in the 90s, they were writing out contracts for ebooks, but ebooks weren't even around then. For audiobooks, yet audiobooks were hardly done back then. So they saw what was happening in the future. And so they had contracts on all of that. And they wanted international rights, they wanted, the Australian rights, they wanted everything. And my literary agent said to me, you realise they want 50 years, Cindy, of you. They want 50 years in Australia, they want 50 years in internationally.
For that one book.
For the one book. They want all your electronic rights. They want all your audio rights. They want everything. And I didn't know what electronic was.
insane.
But I didn't know what electronic was. I didn't know what audio was. I didn't know what anything was. So
if you did any reprints, sorry to interrupt
Yeah,
you. So if you
that's
did
right.
any reprints inside of that 50 years or you decided you wanted to update it or add something to it or change it, they had the rights to that as well.
They had
Not
the
just
rights.
that original copy.
And they had the rights to
their
everything.
book, anything titled.
Everything. So then
stop it.
I didn't know this, and I was a naive, 30-year-old going into a business that I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
Except, you get a little bit, you get savvy as you go. So he said, I'm only going to give him 2 years for international. Thank goodness. Because if they'd had 50 years, I've still got 30-something years to go. I think I've done, what am I? I'm nearly at 20. I did 2000 with them. So I've done 14 years with them. So I've still got 36 years with them.
Oh, so you did agree to the 50 years in Australia?
Nationally, yeah, in Australia. But internationally, I only did 2 years. And I got published in Greece and I got published in Korea. But I wouldn't have been able to do Kindle in the US. I can't do Kindle here in Australia because they have the rights of that version here in Australia for 50 years. So anything that's sold in Australia for Changing Habits goes to them, but anything that's sold outside Australia comes to me. Interesting. These are rights that you just don't know.
And the contract is so long.
It's so long. It was like this thick. And yeah,
that was about 2 centimetres, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Just so you know. Cindy holds up her hand and says, "This thing." Yeah, no, the space between her 2 fingers was about actually, there wasn't. It was about 1.5 centimetres.
It was pretty thick. So all of a sudden, you start to realise that you do need people as advocates for you. So a literary agent was really good for being an advocate. Now I look like, and I'm still paying them. I still pay them. And I'm with a big group in Sydney. So I tried to buy back or get back my book. So this is another thing. You can get your books back.
We bought ours back.
So if you're doing really badly, they'll give it back to you.
Yeah.
But if you're doing well, they won't give it back to you.
Yeah.
So Changing Habits has continued to be a very big seller because of me. For no other reason but because of me, because I'm out there marketing and selling, and I'm all the time. We buy more. We're their biggest buyers. So we're their biggest buyers. But I did, and people need to know this, you can negotiate. You were getting 10%. You can negotiate 12 and 15%. Depending.
But you can also have partnerships with publishers. You only have to look at 4 Ingredients. They ended up doing partnerships with publishing houses. So they negotiated the biggest deals I've ever seen in my life. I didn't even know that was possible. But it is possible. And people have to be aware of this. If they're out there looking, do I do a Kindle version? Do I do my own version? Do I go through a publisher? You know what Valerie Kerr and Alison talk about on that, So You Want to Be a Writer? They say the most important thing is to just start writing. Just start writing. And they believe that and don't forget, they're all writers. Yeah. So it's someone like me that's not a natural writer. Well, I don't think I'm a very good writer.
Oh, you're a good writer. You're a very engaging writer.
Oh, well, isn't that... Well, I don't think I'm an intelligent writer then, put it that way.
No, Kimmy, you're very engaging. I love reading your stuff.
Oh, really?
And it makes me read on... Jess Ainscough is another one.
Oh, yeah. She's tops.
Like, when she writes, I can't stop.
Yeah.
But there are some people I'll read the first paragraph and I go, I'm bored already, and I'll leave.
Yeah.
So I think if you're an engaging writer...
That's the most important.
I think that's the most important. It doesn't matter about... Well, what you put down is also important, but, I was reading something this morning on some blogger, and I couldn't stop reading it, even though it was of no
importance.
No, it wasn't going to get me any further. I just couldn't stop reading what this person was saying. So, and that's the problem with Facebook, I think, sometimes.
But I think that's... having said that, I think that's the key, because there's a distinction, even when people think that I'm going to start speaking, they think they have to become a speaker, or they think they have to become a writer. Instead, the opposite's actually true, because it's more engaging when you conversate as a speaker. It's far more engaging when you conversate when you're writing.
Yes.
I mean, it is a different skill for sure, but if you write like you would write a thesis or an essay, it's kind of not going to be the most engaging conversational piece there. But I think if a person like you do, Kim, when you write the same way that you speak, so you can hear your voice.
Yeah, it's so true. I think also what's important from the perspective of speaking and writing, there is no doubt if you can speak that you will sell more copies of your book.
Oh, definitely.
So to me, and that's where I had a lady ring me the other day, and she was talking about it, and she'd not heard of Karen Smith. I mean, hello.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And I said to her,
who is this woman?
I know, who is this
Trust
woman?
me, she knows you now.
How cute.
But she was looking, and she rang me asking me a question about an oil. And we ended up talking, and she's all around paleo and all that sort of a thing. And she said, I'm really thinking of learning to speak. And she goes, because I'm really finding it hard to get my message out there. I think if you learn how to speak, if you can tell your story speaking, I reckon that's what's helped me as a writer, because it's taught me articulation, being present, being aware of what I say, being also understanding of watching people's reactions and what works. That transcribing the workshop was hideous when I first did it, but I recently did it not long ago, and I was actually really rapt at how far I have come in 12 years as a speaker. And I thought it was a really neat, even though, a bit like you, when you talk about your speaking, that first thing that was videoed, you can't stand it. But I think sometimes when you see that compared to where you are now, you actually realise what you've learnt and achieved.
But I think we're in an age now where speaking is not that important to sell books. Because, like, I've seen some amazing bloggers do brilliantly with their book sales.
Yeah, if they've got a good profile.
If they've got a really good profile, they're doing well. Like,
I kind of see blogging as speaking. To me, blogging is a way of speaking. Like, you're writing it, but it is a very conversational, and it's very personal, and it's very authentic to that person. So I agree with you, but I think blogging has been one of the most amazing insights into the world of writing.
The way I see people doing really well, and I've been watching because I find it interesting. So podcasts are very, very popular at the moment.
Yeah, aren't they?
And so if you have a podcast or are interviewed by a popular podcaster, you sell heaps and heaps and heaps. I see this. If you're part of a summit, you're interviewed from a summit and somebody likes what you're saying, you can get your book. This wasn't available when, when I look back in the 90s. This wasn't available. So the opportunity to become a bestseller is becoming more and more available to just anybody that's out there and wants to get their message across. Whereas back in the 90s, I believe, you had to be published, you had to have a book, it had to be in a bookstore, because there was no online sales that I can remember. So I think there are other ways. Speaking is definitely one. Blogging is another way. Being interviewed, being on television. Like, look at Pete Evans. Okay, so Pete Evans was a very fat chef. I don't know if you...
I didn't know he was fat.
Oh, gosh, look back at his old photos. He was quite a puffy face.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think that he was... I don't think he was into paleo back then.
No.
And then I noticed him starting to lose weight throughout it. And then I noticed him starting...
he's hot.
Yes, he's gorgeous. Blue eyes.
Oh, yeah.
But I went and listened to him speak. I hate to tell you, but I was sadly disappointed. Sorry, Pete, but you were shocking.
He needs to do Karen's course.
You need to do Karen's course, definitely.
He's puffy.
Yeah, look.
Kim's showing us a photo of him.
Did you just do that then?
Yeah.
Oh, I can see that
Yeah,
now.
he was, and I don't know, but I have a feeling that maybe his new girl, and I may be completely wrong here, was paleo and got him into paleo, and now he is spruiking paleo everywhere. He's on Facebook. He's really getting out there and a lot, and he's sold all his books.
Yeah,
his first book out, and he's sold. Well, I think it was his first book out.
He's doing lots of publicity right now. So
a lot of publicity.
That's the other thing to remember, publicity with publishers. You get 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks with them, and that's
2 weeks on the road, and that's it.
If that.
Yeah. I got 2 weeks on the road.
Yeah,
When I spoke with Penguin about Soul Survivor, and they offered to take it on, and in the end I said no.
Yeah.
Because I said to her, okay, because the only reason that I would have gone with them was for that publicity, because I had 60 Minutes, and I thought, well, it would be great to have other complimentary publicity around that.
You had the coup.
Yeah.
You had the best.
Everyone.
But she said to me, no, she said, look, honestly, she said, I'm going to be really honest with you. She said, we want the book. She said, because we know we can make it move.
Yeah.
But she said, the best that we'll do is, a couple of the local papers. She said, we might be able to get it onto the radio station. But she said, that's all that we do. She said, the person who does our publicity has left. So she said, so we're in the process of replacing them. And she said, so it's probably going to take a while. She actually said,
"This is Penguin."
Yeah, it was a while ago. I mean, they were awesome. And if I was going to go with the publisher, they're the only publishing company that I would go with. because they were brilliant with me. They were absolutely brilliant with me. And the woman that I spoke with was so informative, so open, so honest, so she actually cared about me in comparison to other publishing houses that I'd spoken with. She actually cared. And when I said to her, look, because she gave me the offer and she said, think about that. And then I came back and I said, I'm actually going to decline. And she said, I think you're making the best decision.
Wow. Was this Sydney or Melbourne?
Oh,
you
I can't
remember.
I can't even remember.
Because they have different...
she was amazing.
They have different teams, and that's amazing. Isn't it wonderful?
She was fabulous. She was fabulous.
Wow.
And that's you know what the whole key to this podcast is? It's about gathering information
And resources.
and looking at all your options. And I think the other thing, the Australian Writers Centre is the place that I'm talking about with Valerie. What they even offer writing tours, writing workshops.
Oh, wow.
How to actually put a book together. They give you advice. They put you in touch with literary agents. They're amazing. So out of that, I am so under the pump at the moment that my new book coming out this year, my ghostwriter arrives this weekend to get this out. So you can employ ghostwriters. That's another thing. So you end up, like you said before, telling your story, and then because I haven't got time to put it all together.
Are they expensive?
No, not for what I don't think so. Not for what I get. I mean, they're a big investment. But the way my husband did his book to get his ghostwriter, he actually got a sponsor. And I was looking at doing the same thing. So you actually can get a sponsor that sponsors the ghostwriter. Then that sponsor gets their branding on all your books, which is another way to help finance things.
Yeah, that's true.
And the other thing you can do is you can actually write a book for a company. So you might end up, like Fleur and I worked for a company in New Zealand. We ended up doing a lot of their skincare and aromatherapy training. We then put a book together that they were the biggest buyer of the book, which is how we got it published, because they ended up buying the book. We could have actually branded it just with their logo on it, and it would have been a book that sold through all of those retailers.
How awesome.
So there's always ways around it, and you got to remember though, self-publishing, you're up for every single cost, and it's upfront costs. And I'll be honest, to print like Chocolate for Women, it was a $40,000 upfront cost for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Because ours was a design. But and the stupid thing about self-publishing, sorry to interrupt
No,
you
go.
then, was here we were thinking, oh good, now we haven't got anyone telling us that we can't write this, we can't write that.
Oh.
So we did it. It was 306 pages. So it was a bloody heavy book, which when we got it, we didn't realise, and we didn't think about it from a posting point of view. So,
like, you know what, we've just touched the surface.
I know, there's so much to talk about.
And I think what you've said is direct these
Australian
people are
Writers
interested
Centre
to go to there, because once you've written the book, then you have to market it.
Yes.
And marketing is, like, I've been marketing for 20 years.
Yeah.
That was what I was so proud. There I was in the garage, 2,000 books.
We did too.
Yeah, you're so proud of it, and then you go, oh my gosh.
Oh, hell.
Oh, hell, now I'm going to sell it. The easy part, I think, is the writing of the book and getting it in that garage or putting it on Kindle or whatever. Like, I think that's the easiest part. It's then marketing it.
Yeah.
And that's another conversation in itself, I'd say.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
But I think the first thing for anybody who's flirting with writing a book right now, I think the first thing you need to do is you need to gather your resources around how to organise your thoughts.
And I love the way you do this.
I think it's really important. Well, just super, super quick. What I do is I get plastic sleeves and I put a big, and it's quite a manual process, but you could do it on the computer.
plastic sleeves?
Yeah, A4 plastic sleeves, and I get a folder with a 2-ring binder. And then I put big stickers on the front of each plastic sleeve, and each plastic sleeve represents a chapter. So so I kind of sit down and I work out, all right, what are the chapters that I think I want to have in my book? Now, you're going to change it. It's not going to be the be-all and the end-all, but it's a way of organising your thoughts. So I put a title on each sticker. So I might say, this chapter's going to be on focus, this chapter's going to be on fun, this chapter's going to be on family, this chapter's going to be on whatever. And because originally my book was going to be called The F Word.
Get effed?
No, just the F word. So every chapter started with an F.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was my original thought. And so then with each plastic sleeve, you've got a chapter in there. And then you sit down, and it's just when you're inspired. So you don't force it. You don't force inspiration. You don't force creativity. Otherwise, it's too analytical. So when you wake up and you feel inspired, you get an idea, you grab a piece of paper, write the idea, and for each particular, whichever chapter you're thinking of, and stick it in that plastic sleeve. And then you just spend however long you need to collecting ideas for each plastic sleeve. And then when it's time to actually start working, you pull out a plastic sleeve, you pull out all of the ideas inside of that plastic sleeve, and then you write the content based on the ideas in that plastic sleeve. But I think in order to keep the chapters compelling and what you write compelling, you do need to have a bit of a structure. Otherwise, what tends to happen is we waffle.
Totally.
And it's when people waffle that there's two things that happen. When you waffle when you're writing a book, your book becomes really boring and challenging to read, but your editing becomes extremely expensive.
Good point.
Yeah. So if you're writing to a bit of a structure, which just happened to share in my speaking program.
So they'll have to go to Speakers Fast Track.
Speakers Fast Track, all the W's.karensmith.com. There it is.
See, this is marketing at its best. This is marketing at its best.
Right.
Touche.
Totes. So then you write your little thingies to a structure, and then that's what you send to the editor. So get all of your ideas, write them into a bit of a structure, then don't try and put it together because that's beyond you. You're the creative creator. You're the person who's done the writing of each of your ideas. Don't try and make it make sense. Don't put it in you can put it in logical and sequential order. I would suggest that. But then hand it over to the editors and let the editors actually create the flow for you. Because by the time you finish writing on all of your ideas, you're probably well and truly exhausted from the book. And then when the editor sends you back the first draft, that's when you've got to reinvest your time again to then make what the editors have given you back make sense in your own words and language. So I had 6 editing rounds, and I had 4 different editors. Because
because she's a perfectionist.
Well, I am a perfectionist, and you know what?
It's true, isn't it?
When the editor first sent the book back, she didn't do any proofreading.
No.
All she did was, did it make sense? And then she sent me back a world of questions to answer, which was great. And then I sent it back thinking I was going to get it back with the mistakes corrected.
Yeah.
The mistakes were never corrected by that particular editor. So I had to go and then get another editor to correct the mistakes.
Wow.
But then that editor suggested that the first editor had missed a lot of the depth in the story, so then that editor wanted to change.
That's the thing, isn't it, when you start getting more and more people involved, and you can get bloody confused as the author and start losing your way with it.
In the end, I put my mum on. My mum studies at uni, and I said to her, Mother, you know my story, you know me. Please have a read through it if you see any mistakes or anything you don't understand. My mum picked up more spelling mistakes than the 4 editors combined.
Oh my gosh.
The girls in my book club picked up all the editing mistakes.
And there are still mistakes in my book.
Yeah.
There are still spelling mistakes. My name is spelt wrong on the last page. So instead of saying, with my website, instead of saying www.karensmith.com, it's www.karensmith.com.
Oh, you're kidding.
That's so funny. Cindy's tummy is rumbling.
Can I just say, to prelude putting them into the sleeves, I also did what you suggested at one of your workshops, which was I post-it noted all those original thoughts to get the chapters, and then put that all over my window, and then put that into a form to create the chapters. So you get a post-it pad, you write down everything you think that you'd like to put into this book, and then you put it all up onto a big whiteboard or onto a window, and then you move the post-it stickers into creating the chapters, and that was a really good way for me to start.
That's my storyboarding.
Yeah,
process.
love it. But which is also how you formulate speeches, which is why I think the two can be so interrelated and interlinked so powerfully.
Yeah.
So the couple of the websites that we've recommended are the Australian Writers Centre, and then the podcast was So You Want to Be a Writer. That's what I called it.
So yes.
So You Want to Be a Writer, and that's Alison Tate and Valerie Khoo, who I think I just think they're brilliant since I've met them. You've got to think about things like your formatter, editor, designer. Now, Karen just mentioned before about making sure you don't put anything, too fancy in when you give it to your editor. You've also not got to do anything except keep one font and one size the whole way through for a designer. They do not want any boxes. They don't want any bolding. They don't want, a designer does not want you to touch. It needs to be as raw as possible. One font, one size, the whole book.
And Word?
In what?
In Word?
In Word document, yeah. Then you've got to look for a printer if you're going to self-publish, and a distributor. You can look for a literary agent. Was there anything else, girls, that we talked about?
Well, you can look at marketing as well. So
Definitely.
there are a lot of good marketers out there, or learn on the internet. There's lots of places on the internet that can
When
teach
I
you
look
about
at the
marketing.
help you get now,
Yeah.
even if you Googled want to write a book,
Yeah.
you would be amazed at the information that comes up. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good point.
I just as when I did it back in the 90s, there was one book out called Publish for Profit by Cindy Kaplan. And I followed her. She did the pros and cons of everything. So I don't know if it's still out there, but but it's an old book. So it doesn't have the information we now have today. So there's
tons of resources out there.
There's tons of resources, and people just have to start writing and not putting it off. I think that's number one.
Yeah.
Is don't put it off.
And
if
don't
you've
be
got a book in
afraid.
you, do it.
Afraid.
Get amongst it.
Yeah.
Look, I couldn't stand the thought of writing. I never called myself a writer. I've written 6 books. So you got to turn around to yourself and say sometimes, actually, maybe
I failed English. I failed English in year 12.
What? I slept through English.
I slipped through English. There you go.
Charles Dickens who?
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, I failed HSC English. I had to go back and repeat.
Well, if you failed it, there's hope for all
There's
of us.
hope for everybody.
And I think that's a great note to finish the podcast. So if you've enjoyed this podcast, or if you've got any questions for the girls or for myself on writing a book, go to our Facebook page, allthews.facebook.com/up-for-a-chat. And you can also post your comments on allthews.thewellnesscouch.com/up-for-a-chat. So go ahead and post your comments, and when you're on iTunes, be sure to give us a 5-star rating and tell everybody that you know that Up for a Chat rocks. Join us here next week on Up for a Chat and become part of the ripple effect that's changing the world. We'll see you on the ride.
Hi, Lawrence Tam here from the Wellness Guy Show and the Inside the Champion's Mind. The Wellness Summit returns to Melbourne in 2014 for not only 1, but 2 days of powerhouse wellness with your favorite wellness couch host and Australians' wellness elite. Join us at Crown Melbourne on Saturday, August 16th and Sunday, August 17th for inspirational, educational, fun, exciting, sensational cocktail of wellness that promises to help you take your life to the next level. Regular tickets are $297, but for strictly limited time, we have 150 seats available for just $247. Hurry up, because the first 150 tickets, when we went on sale, sold out in 48 hours. So be quick. Join us at the 2-day live event that will change your life forever. Tickets now are on sale at thewellnesssummit.com.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives.
Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.